You know who I don't think close it out next time? And this is going to be my big prediction, is I think the Florida Panthers are going to win game 5. Okay.
Oh, I hope so.
Um,
Just because I've been having fun, I don't want it to end.
Me too. And like, let's just be clear here. Matthew Tkachuk is playing hurt.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's playing hurt. And that is a part of why it's been hard. I mean, at the end, like, he was the game-tying goal going into overtime in game 3. He was the screen on that goal to have them win it. So
He almost scored. He almost scored the tying goal with like 8 seconds left.
Yeah.
In game 4. Before I mean, I don't want to excuse it. Before, frankly, all hell broke loose.
I mean,
he was trying to put Alex Petrangelo in a chokehold.
right, but in the last game, he barely even played in the third period because
right.
and that was they were down 3-0. I mean, I forget when the 2 goals were scored, but they were down. Obviously, you would want that player out there, your best.
And do you think it's because he got leveled by Colasar? Do you think that's where the injury came from?
I mean, honestly, who the hell knows in hockey?
I know it is
upper
hard.
body, lower body,
yeah,
upper body, lower body, and no one. I mean,
his ribs could be broken, and we wouldn't really know.
To be honest, I'm not even against it because I do appreciate that one thing about the NHL is that they are trying to protect their players from their injuries getting targeted. In the NFL, like, Justin Herbert's ribs were targeted every game after that injury, or ankles that are bad are targeted because there's more disclosure about the specificity of the injuries. It does put players at risk, and in a physical game like hockey, I think that's what it's designed to avoid. I don't know how effective it is, but I think that's the intention, even if it's a little ridiculous and obscure at a certain point. But putting that aside, I just think the Panthers showed a lot of heart as they do. They tend to, and I think they're going to step up with the series on the line in Game 5. But that doesn't mean that I think they're going to win. Like we said this in our series preview, the Knights are so damn deep. They're so deep, and the biggest question about them really was Adin Hill. And in Game 4, Adin Hill stopped 29 out of 31 shots. And he was in like the expected goals against like analytics stat, nearly 2.5 goals over that by some metrics. So it's like he was not just making, blocker saves off of easy, soft shots. He was making big saves. And it looked like the Panthers were going to get blown out, but they came back. They showed fight. I think that fight carries over into Game 5. But in the end, the Golden Knights are deep as hell, and they made big moves because they wanted a championship within their first 5 years in Vegas, and they're 1 game away.
And also the amazing thing about them too is I think another X factor, or at least kind of variable we were thinking about going in, was also the lack of production. Because I said this about Eichel in the sense that I would think it would be overwhelming if Eichel started to score more, but Eichel is still, despite not scoring at a not necessarily consistent clip, still obviously just making huge impacts with his playmaking. But an X factor or variable that we should have also considered, or at least talked about a little bit, I think it was we talked about it in a lesser capacity, was if William Karlsson showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that Karlsson, had that goal in net and in front of the net, and he tapped that in, I was like, oh, okay. So like, if he's
finally getting his, yeah.
If we have William Karlsson kind of getting into the scrum and scoring, if we have Mark Stone making play after play after play, if we have Jonathan Marchessault and Chandler Stevenson doing what they've basically done all playoffs, which is just score the leather off the puck, basically with the way that they've been doing that, and Eichel's playmaking. And having we just randomly in one of our lines, we just have Shea Theodore also, just who can kind of dazzle you with his puck skills every once in a while and make an amazing goal. Like, this is a really, really phenomenal team.
Yeah, and there's something to be said too that I think the Golden Knights, like, this was the problem with the East being such a meat grinder.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It forges you in the fire, but sometimes it breaks you. And the Panthers could not have had a harder road if it was dreamt up. Like, I mean,
they had to play the President's Trophy winner to start.
one of the best regular season teams in the history of the NHL.
And then they had to play
the Leafs, which was soft, but
right.
But then they had to play the really hard-hitting Carolina Hurricanes.
Exactly. It was
and
not an easy time for them to
absolutely.
get there. And it's a lot of hockey they had to play too.
And I would put look, it was not easy to defeat the Edmonton Oilers. I would say the Winnipeg Jets didn't have a ton of high-end talent. The Edmonton Oilers are a little soft defensively.
Also, basically just high-end talent.
Yeah, another
the other way. They only have high-end talent.
But the Panthers have more grit than they do. And then, the Dallas Stars, they got a little bit of a scare at the end, right? With the Stars winning 2 consecutive games, but they closed that out. And
they were the only team that really, I would say, really significantly made Jake Ottinger look like human, vulnerable.
Yeah, he did not have a good series, and that was, I think, because you can't count out the scoring from most of the team,
right.
So the Golden Knights are like a really good team, and honestly, if they end up finishing this off and the Panthers don't miraculously come from behind, which you cannot count out given their history,
definitely not.
I hope they win this next game just to make it interesting, and because I might place a small wager on it.
What was that?
But I look, I hate teams moving. I hate that Oakland is about to lose the A's, most likely. I can't stand that the Raiders are out of Oakland, or that St. Louis lost the Rams. But expansion teams, I'm all for it. I'm at least until the talent pool gets a little too diluted. But to bring the NHL to 32 teams, I thought that was a smart move. And the fact that the ownership in the Golden Knights case made a concerted effort to make big moves to get them to a championship within the first 5 years, you're going to win over the hearts of that city and that fan base.
And I think
that's a really smart investment on on the ownership's part.
And I think what's important there with what you're saying too is that I think tangibly and intangibly. What I mean when I say that, I mean there's a difference between the infrastructure and the hierarchy and the actual logistics of a team moving from a city that they formerly represented into a city, which in some ways for some fans can not only feel like a betrayal to the former fans, but an incursion to the so-called new fans.
Yeah.
Residents of Los Angeles wondering, why do we have 2 professional football teams?
Right.
Whereas Oakland could have had the Raiders, and San Diego could have the Chargers.
Yeah.
Why do we have two LA teams?
It's all because of the stadium and the markets,
right.
The owners trying to get a deal on where they're locating their team.
Fans be damned, essentially.
Exactly.
And same thing for Vegas. It's like, do we need a baseball team that is not ours? Do we need an NFL team that is not ours? That question is not the same for the Knights, because the Knights. Their origin story is Las Vegas. Their nucleus is Las Vegas. You see it in the way that these fans not only travel but also just support their team. There's an electricity and a vibrancy to the broadcasts in Vegas that I don't think are the same for Raiders games, that I don't think are the same for teams that move to another city from a city that once loved them.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely fundamentally different, and I think cultivating and generating and building and evolving that fan base and that fan culture is so important, and by succeeding early, it's so much easier to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sure
they were in the Cup Finals in their first year.
I'm sure that there were so many fans across any spectrum, single people, couples, families, kids, adults, seniors, whoever, who fell in love with the Golden Knights because this was a team, or maybe even people who didn't like hockey.
Yeah.
Who were like, now I have a team that's just ours, that succeeded the second they got to Las Vegas and became a spectacle as well, became something to watch in Vegas.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really great for the city. Outside of the spectacle of even Vegas, I think it's just great for the city itself and the people of that city, and for them to have a team that can succeed as well as with their other team that was generated in their city, which is the Aces.
Yeah.
The WNBA team who just won a championship.
Good point. Good point.
Mark Davis is actually a good team.
Right.
That won the WNBA championship last year. So they can build off of this with a great WNBA team and now an NHL team with their own banner to fly potentially.
Well said. I think that's exactly right.